Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm Ramin.
And we are
two blokes
and a mic.
And a mic. God, this is hard over Zoom.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So anyway, welcome back to our channel. Welcome back to episode 6 from Two Blokes and a Mic. Today we're talking about data backups and why they are important to your organization and the longevity thereof. Dan, want to take it away?
Right. So, yes, I'm a nerd, but I am passionate about backups. So this is something that so many people don't think about. A backup? Why do I need a backup? You know, I got it on my machine. I got it on a hard drive. It's plugged in. It's all right. All my data's on a hard drive that's plugged into my computer.
Yeah.
Okay. Or you got the slightly more informed view of my stuff's in the cloud. What do I need a backup for? So I want to address all of these. But first of all, I wanted to say that not all backups are created equal.
That is very true.
There are local backups, for example. What does that mean? It means you back up to a device or a hard drive or something else that is local to your computer. It's hard drive sitting next to your computer. It's maybe sitting on your network, but it's in your building. The next would be a cloud backup, where your data is backed up directly to a server on the internet somewhere. A third backup, which isn't really a backup, but it's backup for some people, is a file synchronization. A good example would be something like Dropbox, where you synchronize your files on your computer to a server in the cloud. And then another thing I wanted to talk about was the different types of backup, and that is like file only, bare metal, and real disaster recovery. So let's kick in with, first of all, the local backups. This, depending on the software that you're using, it can back up either just the files, or it can back up the whole computer, including your files. What does that mean? It means your operating system, your applications, everything, including your files, goes to, say, an external hard drive. The problem with that is that if you have a disaster, like a fire, for example, then not only has your computer gone up in flames, but also your backup has gone up in flames as well.
Correct. Yeah, there is no recovery from that.
Now, the good thing about a local recovery, a local backup solution, is that it is generally much faster to restore, which is why we recommend you have both. So,
correct.
Then you have the cloud backup. Something like Carbonite is a very popular one. Let's just talk about that. Generally, with Carbonite, there's very different options, but you can push your files directly to the cloud. They do have options where you can do a full system image, but you need an external hard drive in order to do that. You plug it in. It's a fairly decent solution. The problem with that is if you don't have the external hard drive plugged in and you're backing up directly to the cloud, the problem is that when you need to restore your files, if you're talking about restoring a lot of files, it takes a long time to pull that data back down again. It's all completely dependent on the bandwidth. How fast can you pull those files down?
Yeah, I think this is a good point to make, regardless of which cloud-based backup solution you use. Bandwidth per user is essential.
Yes. Yeah.
You need to know how much bandwidth this is going to take. If you have 10 people in an office and you're all hammering the network with backups, along with Pandora and email and everything else you're doing, understand that the uphill bandwidth is going to get saturated and you will have trouble with that.
But on that initial backup.
On the initial backup, everything else is incremental and tiny. It doesn't matter.
Your up pipe is, not always, but most of the time, is much thinner than your down pipe.
Correct.
There's a good reason for that.
Asynchronous bandwidth is what's called in the industry.
Right. So that initial backup to the cloud can take days, maybe even weeks, depending on how much data and how much bandwidth you have.
Correct.
So you got to be patient when you start this cloud backup. And most of these cloud backup services will have an option to send you a hard drive with all of your data on it in an emergency. Normally, you have to pay for that. Again, there are some services that will include that, for the first time or whatever. But In a real disaster, they can send you a hard drive. You get it in the mail the next day or 2 days later or whatever, and then you can restore your files more quickly. The other backup was the file synchronization. And I say backup because it really is not a true backup in that sense.
No.
It's keeping two separate locations, and it could be more than two, but essentially separate locations synchronized. So you make a change in one, it's copied over to the other, and vice versa. So
this is common with people using Active Directory, Windows Active Directory in their organizations, or they're using network attached storage devices that synchronize to each other. But in the end, it's in the same place.
It is. And you make a change to one, it'll reflect in the other.
Correct. Yes.
Now, this is great for a sort of disaster recovery scenario,
right,
where your machine has failed and you need access to those files. Where there's a real problem is a ransomware infection, for example, where you get the virus and it encrypts all of your files, including your file synchronization folder, that very helpfully then synchronizes all of those encrypted files back to the cloud.
Yes, so you have encrypted files in two locations and are completely useless.
Yes.
Correct?
Now,
yes.
This is not a disaster because all of those cloud solutions can recover your files from an earlier date. The problem is getting support for that. And generally, it's going to take you several days, if not, and I've seen this personally, where we had a friend, it took them a week to get their files back. Now, if you're a business, not having access to your files for a week is
disastrous. It's disastrous. Sorry, there's no other way to put it.
Right. And so education, as long as you're aware of this situation and you're not mistakenly thinking that is a backup, and the expectation that I can get all my files recovered or restored immediately.
Correct.
This is all about education. Knowing your options.
Correct. If I could interject here real quickly.
Absolutely.
We have one of the things that everybody, and I mean everybody, fails to do with backup solutions, regardless of which they use, is to do periodic test restores.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody restores their data. They just say, it's being backed up. And, there's that kind of hand waving. It is behind me now. I don't care. Right. And you have to care. I actually had a client who didn't want to implement any kind of an offsite backup solution because their son was the IT guy. And he was synchronizing data from the San Jose office to the Oakland office. He never tested to see if data was actually going to Oakland. And they had a break-in and the servers were stolen. Then they went to see if the servers in Oakland had data, and the answer was no. 3 years worth of data went missing. That is disastrous for an organization. You can't lose 3 years worth of customer data, especially if you're in a service organization of any kind, right? Where you need to have customer history in order to continue to help your customers out.
It's not just
essential.
Yeah, that applies to pretty much any business.
Correct. You have to check. This is not a fire and forget. And I think the sad part is that the marketing from all of these backup companies has been, we're fire and forget. No such thing. It does not exist.
Now, I would like to introduce Datto. It's a company that we have used over the last sort of year or so. And I don't want a product push, but
they're not paying us for any of this, by the way.
No.
Everything we're doing here is just these are things we've done before, so and have been relatively successful with. Yeah. This is more for you to know what your options are out there. Yeah, we're making on this.
So Datto used to have a product, and there are plenty of other companies that do the same thing, where you have a device on your network. It's like a NAS, network attached storage, where you have essentially a mini server, and everything backs up to that, and that then pushes up to the cloud. This is not new. The thing where Datto have really come into their own is virtualizing computers while it's backing up. So what does that mean? So in the event that you have a disaster, you have already created a virtual machine. So say, for example, your server goes down and it's the power supply or something like that, and you need to get a new power supply. It's going to take you a day, maybe two, to source this power supply. In the meantime, nobody can work, right? Because your server's down. Well, with Datto, you literally turn on the virtual machine that was the backup.
In the
You
cloud.
literally just
In the
a
cloud.
few clicks.
Yeah.
So you can do this both ways. So traditionally, it was the NAS. On your network, you click start the VM. It takes a few minutes to boot up that VM, and everything is exactly as it was from the last time that it backed up. That is that's amazing to start with. But what they've done now is they've allowed that operation for workstations directly to the cloud. So not only are you backing up to a virtual machine, but you have a virtual machine sitting in the cloud, which is on their servers. And this is another sort of game changer because other providers do this, but you have to set up your own AWS account or other hosting account and blah, blah, blah. And Datto take care of all of that. So you literally go to their portal, you click restore, you turn on the VM, and within a few minutes, your machine is back exactly as it was, applications, files, everything as it was. And in the event of you want a VPN to that, you can just set up a VPN to that virtual machine, and then your local network is back up and running. It's an incredible technology. And another game changer that we were just talking about was that restore, that recovery, that check to make sure that everything was working okay.
Essential, yeah.
So what Datto do is they send you a screenshot of the virtual machine every day that it's backed up. So if it doesn't come up with a login screen, Control-Alt-Delete, it's a fail. If it does come up with a Control-Alt-Delete from the virtual machine, it's a success. So every day you're getting that validation. Did my backup work? Did my backup work?
Right.
Yes, no. We've had instances where it hasn't failed, and you can see on the little screenshot, updating, 99% nearly done. So that has happened in that instance is where the machine has automatically installed Windows updates, for example, and is just taking a lot longer to get to the point that it can recover. So a great system. So you were going to say something.
So what I was going to say is the limitation of this is that it works on Windows machines.
That's right.
So
that
not Macs and not Linux.
Right. So that workstation disaster recovery solution, it does have limitations. It's 1 terabyte of space there, and it only works on Windows workstations right now. I think they're working on that. But anyway, it was just such a game changer for us that we were like, wow, this is awesome. So we got to get it.
Agreed. I mean, it's something that all the providers need to head towards.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I think they are.
They're all. I think you're right. They're all working towards going in that direction.
Yeah.
To not do that would indicate long-term failure. On
Yeah.
their part,
Yeah. Other players are going to eat their business.
Yes.
So I wanted to kind of quickly, because I know we're running short of time, but I wanted to talk quickly about the differences between file-only, bare metal, and disaster recovery.
Yes.
True disaster recovery. So the file-only is literally just that. It's not your applications. It's not your operating system. It is your desktop, where you've edited files, your My Documents, your music, your pictures, things like that. Those are your files.
Pictures, music, Microsoft Word documents, Excel documents.
Yeah.
Anything
that you created.
Edit, open, view, PDFs.
Okay. And let's face it, that's the most important stuff. It's your created content. So at the bare minimum, you need a file-only backup solution.
Agreed.
And you have what's called a bare metal backup. What is that? Well, it's where you back up everything, your operating system, your applications, and your files, but it's stored in a file. And then if I need to restore back, I need to either run a boot disk on the failed machine and restore back that image so I get everything back. Or I can also load up an application, look into that file, and pull out the files that I need.
Correct.
It's a great solution. It was a traditional kind of disaster recovery solution. It is still a disaster recovery solution as long as you have that image offsite. Okay, so you could argue it's still a disaster recovery if you don't have it offsite. But anyway, The disaster recovery, the true disaster recovery, is what I was just talking about with Datto, where you have a solution that can literally get you back up and running within a few minutes. It's business continuity. It really will save your bacon if you need solutions that cannot be down for any length of time. And there can be a huge cost saving, especially if you have a large staff that are reliant on a server.
Right.
So it's something that you really need to look into. I know I've been rambling on really quickly, but I also want to quickly touch on some of the other applications and platforms if we have time.
Yeah, I think we should probably go through them real quickly and a quick brief description, and then we will put the links to all of these in the show notes, and we will attempt to also give you, if we can, screenshots of the website and their offerings and the pricing and that kind of stuff, so you have a quick view of what these things are like.
So for some of these, we use them ourselves. Some of them we have used them, and occasionally we use them in special cases. And others we're still exploring, and this is kind of a continuing sort of education for us. We never really let it drop. We always want to kind of keep looking for options. So I already touched on Datto. They're a fantastic company. Highly recommend them. They only work through resellers, so you can't buy it direct. So you need to go through somebody. Acronis. They are a very, very
they've been
trusted,
around a long time.
A very long time, and like they came from the bare metal backup kind of space. You would always trust Acronis to do a full system image. Fantastic company, really great. They also do a cloud-based solution as well. Carbonite. So Carbonite are a great solution. They're one of the first to go direct to cloud. They have loads and loads of different plans, from file restricted, simple backups, where it would back all of your files except for large files, or except for music files or video files.
Video files, typically, yeah, things of a certain size.
Yeah, which was, from my perspective, is kind of crazy, but that's their very lowest option. They also do other ones where they'll back up everything. So
now Carbonite started out as their initial market offering was for home users. They migrated towards the business end of the world.
And on that aspect, they do have HIPAA compliance on their higher end stuff. They also do devices now, I believe. So they do a lot of different options. Then, like a much more cost effective, I'm doing that in a polite way, solution is a company called iDrive. They provide like a chunk of space, and you can do with it whatever you want to do.
Right.
Inexpensive. They do options of file only. They also do bare metal. That's not going to give you the virtualization, but it will give you a path to restore your files in a certain way.
Right.
There's iBackup as well. Something I wasn't particularly experienced about or have knowledge of, but it's a new provider that I think you were looking into.
Right, exactly, and they seem to cover according to the marketing anyway. They seem to they do Windows, Macs, Linux, Android, and iOS devices.
And what about security? Do they do like compliance?
Yes, they do. They do HIPAA compliance, SEC, FINRA, SOX compliance, because they encrypt on site. That the requirement for most of these compliances is that the files be encrypted on site, encrypted in transmission, and then encrypted at rest.
Yeah,
right?
That's fairly typical.
Yeah.
Couple of other players, Crash Plan, Mozy Pro. They're pretty sort of cheap and cheerful. Right. They provide you with file only backups, right. And again have been around for quite some time. I also wanted to quickly touch on Windows backup. Especially for servers, yep. Because that has evolved. Microsoft has seen the errors of their ways and are now offering cloud solutions within their backup product. Windows backup has always been like, right. The basic of the basic kind of backups, but it did give you a disaster recovery, like a bare metal backup for servers. And, right. Any backup is better than no backup.
That's correct. Backup. Repeat that. Any backup.
Any backup,
no
please.
Backup. And so essential.
Here's the takeaway. If your data is in one place, it's not safe.
It's not.
You need to keep a copy or a backup somewhere else.
Somewhere else. Yes.
Having an external hard drive with all of your files on is just asking for trouble. It's not a backup. It's worse than a backup because that small external hard drive is easier to drop than your laptop or your desktop.
And they do have, by their very nature, because you're plugging and unplugging the USB cable, they do have a higher failure rate than a lot of other systems, right?
Yeah.
So it's essential that you have more than one of them and that you rotate them out daily, weekly, monthly, whatever, some regular fashion.
Right.
Rotate those out and take one copy off-site.
Yes. So we recommend
home.
We highly recommend you have a local backup. That means something that's in the building. It's fast to recover. It's fast to back up to. But you also have to have a backup outside of your building. Now, that doesn't have to be the cloud. It can be the cloud, but it should be somewhere else.
Correct.
And if you can automate this process, again, that's another huge thing. People will have a backup. They insist that they will run on a regular basis. And if you can do that, fantastic. Problem is that most people don't, and they'll forget about it.
That is correct.
Like 3 months or something. Oh, did we run the backup? Because I have a problem.
Yeah.
No.
3 months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You never want to get into that situation of, did my backups work when you have a problem? So
that is the wrong conversation to be having at that time.
Right.
I mean, in general, it's the wrong conversation to be having, but at that specific moment, it is terribly the wrong conversation to be having. The other thing that you need to be aware of for backups is that the ones that do file level backups do not, I'm going to repeat this, do not back up things like SQL servers, Exchange servers, anything that has a database as an underlying component.
Yeah.
File backup will not back that up. If you lose the hard drive that has that on it and you think you're okay with a file level backup, you're not. There's one or two of the folks that we're going to list in the show notes does do SQL and Exchange backups.
Right.
So you need to know that. And the worst that happens is you implement one level of backup for your files, and then the other, you set up a separate set of backups that then allow you to back up the SQL database. SQL databases can be easily backed up. You create a backup and then have the file level backup back that up so you can restore from it. But you need to do something specific for those instances. Not every company these days has an SQL server on site, but for those who do, and all your company data is in that, you got to fix that.
Also, if you have an Exchange server on site, please call me or
me.
Please don't do that anymore.
There are options. Don't manage your own email server. There is no reason to do that in the 21st century, honestly.
You just, I'm not going to go there. I did want to touch on one last thing.
Yes.
Many of these backup solutions, not all of them, but many of them will keep 30 days worth of your files. So what does that mean? That means that you delete important file number 1. 30 days go by, that's gone forever.
Yeah. It's history.
So check your backup solution. What is the file retention rate of that backup solution? Because they're not all created equal. Check that, and you'll know if I delete that file, can I get it back from last year? I mean, it's kind of unlikely that you would want that if you didn't need it, but from like a year ago. But that is another thing that often people don't realize.
Correct. And it is essential that you not fall victim to marketing, because in the marketing, they won't tell you that their retention period is such and so.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
They won't dig because they're trying to make a sale.
Yeah.
And I get that from a business perspective, but at the end of the day, the due diligence is on you, or, have someone like us look into it for you, but you need to know, how far back can I go? If the Excel spreadsheet that contains all of our payroll information as of last week is corrupted, can I pull one from last payroll period? Is it still there? How long does it stay? These are essential business questions that need to be answered. You need to be able to go back and fix your problem using the backup solution of your choice. And if the solution you're looking at doesn't provide that capability, please don't use them. Don't waste your time and money. Ask us. Call us, email us, whatever. We'll find out for you. We'll let you know what they will and won't do. It is essential. This was 10 years ago. I read a Wall Street Journal article and this was, again, a decade ago. They said that any company that loses their company data will typically go out of business within 18 months.
Right. Yeah.
I suspect that happens faster now.
Data is much more important these days. People don't keep paper copies anymore.
No, and it's essential that you have to. That's the life's blood.
Yeah.
Of your business, and you've gone to a lot of time and trouble to set up and build a business. Let's keep the blood inside, shall we? So anyway, that's my soapbox on backups. Anything else, Dan?
No, that was it. I just want to get that message across.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please back up your stuff.
Please do. Please ask somebody for help. Ask questions. We'll let you know. We'll help you find something that works for you. But don't go about the pattern of hoping you got it right, because you'll find out the hard way that you may not have. So anyway, that's it. We'll continue to produce these kinds of videos. For the moment, we'll stop bugging you. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for watching again. As always, we are here. We are Two Blokes and a Mic. And look forward to our next video. We'll have more information for you. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Cheers.